Okay, let's dive into this explainer on the Machiavellian wealth formula. Today, we're going to look at an uncomfortable truth that, honestly, most people spend their entire lives trying to avoid. And that truth is this: you don't actually have a money problem. You have a value problem. Let's dig into exactly why that is.
Look, the market is brutally honest. It literally doesn't care how tired you are or how intensely you feel like the game is rigged against you. If you're listening to this right now, you're probably someone who is super focused and putting in serious effort. Maybe you studied for years, you wake up early every single day, you do the long commute, and you pay your bills on time. Yet, despite following that traditional school-to-job equation perfectly, your rent is sky high, and your bank account, well, it looks like it's on a strict diet. Money just seems to vanish the second it arrives. It's incredibly easy to look at people who got rich young, feel bitter about it, and just assume they got lucky. But I've got to be honest with you, complaining that the game is unfair is just a massive waste of your life.
Instead of complaining, you've got to learn how the game is actually played. Reality just doesn't care about fairness. Think about it. One man can work 12 grueling hours under a blazing hot sun and remain completely poor, while someone else makes exactly one strategic decision in a quiet room and earns more than that laborer makes in a decade. It's harsh, but it highlights a brutal reality. The market doesn't reward effort equally. A standard salary basically changes your income to your physical presence. The minute you stop working, the money stops flowing. And let's be real, that isn't freedom. That's dependency wearing professional clothing.
Listen to this, because it's absolutely crucial. The market does not reward pain. It rewards value. Money, power, influence, they all have rules. And the people who truly understand these rules, they don't beg the world to reward their pain or their sweat. They position themselves so strategically that rewards become inevitable. You cannot waste your time wishing the world would just hand you a prize for your struggle. You have to focus entirely on how to generate immense value.
And that brings us to our first Machiavellian truth, the problem solver's mindset. This is the exact moment where most people completely misunderstand the concept of money. They chase the money directly. They're constantly asking, how do I make more? But the wealthy, they approach this from a completely different angle. They ask, what painful problem can I solve that people are actually willing to pay for? Money instinctively moves towards solutions. If you solve a tiny problem, you're going to earn tiny money. But if you solve a deeply painful problem for millions of people, no way around it, that is where serious wealth becomes possible.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what I mean. Think about the Amazon model. Jeff Bezos didn't become one of the wealthiest men on the planet because he physically outworked every local shopkeeper on Earth. He didn't just open a bigger store. He systematically eradicated friction. He took massive pain points, things like slow delivery, limited choices, lack of trust, and just completely removed them for millions of people. When you remove friction at that kind of scale, the market rewards you exponentially. So stop chasing money, chase problems.
So how do you actually do this? Well, you run through this diagnostic list. You start by observing, not just by following some vague passion. Ask yourself, what do people absolutely hate doing? What wastes their precious time? Where is their fear? Think about the absolute worst customer service experience you've ever had in your life. That annoyance? That's an opening. A poor mindset asks, who will pay me? The wealthy mindset asks, what pain exists in the market? You literally have to let your ego die right here, because the market does not care what your passion is. It only cares if you can cure its headache. The ambitious hear complaints, and they instantly see openings.
But solving a problem is only step one, and that leads us to truth number 2, the multiplier effect, otherwise known as leverage. So many people solve problems, but they never actually become wealthy because their solution is trapped. Even highly paid professionals, I'm talking top-tier doctors, brilliant lawyers, elite consultants, they are so often trapped in what's essentially an expensive cage. Sure, they might earn exceptionally well, but they are still trading their limited hourly time for dollars. Their income is 100% dependent on their physical presence.
Now, what's really interesting about this is the fundamental difference in scale. Picture this. On one hand, you have a dedicated yoga teacher physically instructing maybe 10 or 20 students in a room. Their impact, and therefore their income, is permanently capped by the physical size of that room and the hours in a day. But on the other hand, a recorded yoga course can teach 10,000 people simultaneously, all across the globe while the creator is fast asleep. That is the true essence of scale.
This right here is the fundamental divide between selling your hours and building systems. Hard work without leverage, honestly, that just creates exhaustion. But hard work with leverage, that creates sheer power. Two people can work equally hard and end up in completely different stratospheres of success. One has to show up every single day just to earn, while the other creates a system that earns far beyond their direct presence. You absolutely must build something that multiplies your effort.
To achieve this, you really need to stop moralizing money and start rigorously studying its movement. Envy is a poison, guys. If you hate wealth, you will never understand it. Instead, start asking yourself these rapid-fire diagnostic questions. Who is paying? Why are they paying? Can this solution scale? Can it run without me? These strategic questions matter infinitely more than your daily motivation.
And this natural evolution brings us to our third truth: ownership and assets. The absolute highest level of business is not just earning a high income. The peak is creating an asset that is so intrinsically valuable that other individuals or companies actually want to own it. It's about building a machine that prints value entirely on its own, whether you show up to the office on Tuesday or not. It stands completely separate from your personal manual labor.
When we put all of this together, it builds into a highly actionable blueprint. Wealth isn't some big mystery reserved for a lucky few. There is a very distinct path. First, you find the pain. Second, you create value by solving it. Third, you build a concrete solution. And fourth, this is the crucial one, you make it scalable using systems. You don't just wake up and start a billion-dollar company. You start with one problem, one market, and one scalable solution. And remember, you don't demand the reward before you've successfully delivered the value.
The ultimate fortunes are made at the very end of this path, when founders transition from just earning an income to selling a whole system. Think of Instagram for a second. It was acquired for $1 billion when it only had 13 employees. 13! That's it! They didn't sell their hourly time. They sold a proven system, a highly active user base, and an entrenched market position. That acquisition is the exact moment where years of invisible, grinding struggle are transformed into massive, visible wealth, just like PayPal did.
And this brings us to a really profound distinction. Income feeds you, assets free you. I want you to really think about that. A salary is going to give you survival. A business is going to give you leverage, but an asset gives you options, and having options is the true beginning of absolute freedom. If you blindly chase money without building assets, you're simply going to build a life where you earn more, spend more, and still feel completely trapped.
So the crucial point is this: money itself is not the destination. Freedom is. Most people don't actually want giant stacks of paper money sitting around. They want what that money protects. They want time. They want choice. They want peace. They want the phenomenal ability to simply say no without ever having to ask permission from a boss, a bank, or a landlord. True wealth is really about needing less permission and having ultimate control over your time, your energy, and your future.
Which leaves us with the only question that truly matters right now. What problem are you solving? Stop asking how to get rich. Stop complaining that the system is rigged while someone else out there is actively learning how it works. Wealth is created by those who solve what others suffer from, and by those who build systems where others only build excuses. Until you can clearly answer that question, you aren't building wealth. You're only waiting for it.